So today's episode, um, we'll be discussing attack concepts and techniques. So we have um we have discussed some introduction to cybersecurity, and earlier we've explained some certain concepts. And from our very first class, when we talked about foundations of IT, foundations of computing, we introduced some technological concepts that we'll be making reference to in today's session. So I hope we've all gone through that. That one was very high level, was very brief, was very summarized. Didn't go any serious. We didn't go into any very serious depth. Just as a way of introduction to get you familiar with some things that we'll be talking about while doing cybersecurity. And of course, we'll still talk about some new things that you've not heard before in this session. But don't worry, I'm going to explain everything as we go. So, the focus for today's session is to help us understand what vulnerabilities are, what malwares are, and the techniques that attackers or hackers use to attack systems. And knowing this will help you with better information on how to safeguard systems. So let's jump right into it. So we're starting by vulnerabilities and exploits. So what is a vulnerability? Vulnerability is just like it implies in normal English, but in the context of cybersecurity, it relates with weaknesses in hardwares and softwares and processes that an hacker or an attacker can exploit to either damage the PC or to steal data or to sabotage the system for whatsoever reason as it may be. So we introduced hackers and hackers' intentions earlier on. So whatever their intentions may be, this is how they go about it. So when there is a weakness and a flaw in a system or in the hardware, in a software process, whatsoever, that that an attacker can exploit to use it to harm that PC, harm that network, harm that application, then we say the system has a vulnerability. In order to help you understand this, from the beginning of the session of this series, we explained softwares and hardwares, and if you could remember that, and softwares are a bunch of codes that have been written in order to allow a computer to perform a specific task. That's to say, someone sat down and instructed the computers on how to go about that task using computer codes. Now, when there is an error, when there is a mistake, they call it a bug. When there is a bug in that particular piece of code that has been written, and that bug can lead to a hacker manipulating that system to his own advantage, to manipulate the code to his own advantage, then we say that that system has a vulnerability in the software. Vulnerability can come in hardware too, and this is beyond just you or the developer. It can come even from the manufacturer's side, because using your PC, for instance, we are not the one that manufactured it, and neither was it the persons who developed the applications run in the system that manufactured it. So if you're using a HP system, then you know that your manufacturers are HP as a company. Is HP as a company, even though they get components from other different manufacturers. See the processor, for example, is probably Intel made. The GPU is probably NVIDIA made, and like that. Now, whoever manufactured this hardware can actually also make some flaws that attackers can manipulate to their own advantage. Then, when this hardware has any of those flaws, then we say that hardware has a vulnerability, right? And vulnerability can also be found in processes. The step step after step that have been put together in the execution of a particular task. It can be flawed. Like what comes before what when you are trying to execute this. Well, if an attacker can see that he can manipulate that, then we can say there is a vulnerability in the process for that system. Do you understand? So if if we know that vulnerabilities can come from um, uh, coding errors, from bugs, or from problems in errors in processes or poor configurations, right? Um, uh, how do we now go about it? Well, it starts by being aware that this is possible. So vulnerabilities can also stem, apart from coding errors and poor configurations, it can come from outdated systems and human errors. What this means is that a system that was designed and was proven to be secure at a particular point in time might later not be secure in another point in time, because over time, hackers try as much as they can to break a system security. And when they are able to break it, they put it out publicly for people to know that this system can be broken if you do this particular thing like this and like that. And other people begin to know about it. And as other people are knowing about it, so is the manufacturer of that system or the developers of that application are also getting to be aware. So what they do is they block that weakness or that entry point that an attacker or a hacker can use to harm the system or application. They block it. They call that process patching. So they patch that vulnerability and it's no longer available. But if your system is still outdated, that's to say, if you have not updated that system or that application, it means that application is still vulnerable and can be exploited. And this is on you and no longer on the manufacturer or the developers of that system. Human errors can also be exploited. We are going to go we're going to talk more on human errors when we begin to talk about social engineering and human vulnerabilities down along the series. So yes, while we are talking about vulnerability, we talked about exploits. What does the exploit in itself mean? So an exploit is a method or tool used to take advantage of a vulnerability to perform unauthorized actions. So it's as simple as that, right? So it could be a tool, it could be a method, right? Whatever you do in order to take advantage of a vulnerability that you found in a particular system or process or software anyway, right? That's an exploit. So there are different types of vulnerabilities. Like I explained earlier, vulnerabilities can be in hardware, can be in softwares, and it can also be um, in human errors, can be in human processes. It can be. So let's start from hardware vulnerabilities. So earlier we talked about how it's possible for the people who made your system to make some kind of mistakes that can be exploited to by a hacker or by an attacker to steal information or damage your PC. And when we talk about hardware vulnerabilities, they can result from chips that are faulty or flaws in firmware. Okay, we talked about hardware and software and firmware earlier in our um, first session. I hope you still remember that. So yeah, firmware flaws. And an example, a very popular example when you talk about um, hardware vulnerabilities, the two most popular ones you hear are Meltdown and Spectre. We're going to talk about them in a bit. So yeah, this can result in serious security problems in a way, and the fault is not even yours as a user. So it could not be because you are careless, but because it is just what it is. So being aware of it can help you better protect. So when we talk about Meltdown, talk about Spectre. These are two popular hardware attacks that are that affect mostly PCs, modern day computer processors. I think from 19 PCs made from 1999 to now, a lot of them are susceptible to these Meltdown and Spectre attacks due to the vulnerability in the hardware of the processors. And how this work is that there is a process called speculative, is it preemptive or speculative execution? It's speculative execution. Yes, there's a process called speculative execution that computers implement. So this is done in order to speed up the process of executing instruction by the CPU. I hope you all remember what a CPU is. We've explained the CPU as the brain of the computer, the place, the seat for logic and calculation and processes. So that's where processing is done. We'll think about it as the brain of your computer. So when these CPUs are developed, I think in order to optimize speed, I don't want to go into clock speed. I don't want to start explaining powers of CPU right now. But in general, CPU has they execute data in a very fast rate, but then they have a limit. All right. So most of the computers you'd see that are using now um, have a speed of 2.4, 2.5, 2.0, thereabouts within that range, gigahertz of processing speed. So it's very fast and it's usually very enough for most of the things we do. But there are other people that do a lot of um, heavier things with their computer that might need faster CPU, and then this wouldn't be enough. They tend to want to use 3.0 or 3.5 gigahertz processor and more like that. But there is no CPU. I don't think there's any CPU that's over 4.0 gigahertz. And this is the limit that the hardware manufacturers of CPUs, this is their limit currently. So, but then how do they optimize the CPU? So they begin to use something called speculative. Yeah, speculative. I hope I'm not missing it out. But yes, speculative execution. So what speculative execution is that the system is able to predict what task that you can do next, so that it doesn't have to waste time following the entire process it uses for execution of data when it knows that this is the um, this is the process that you're likely going to do next. So it prepares the process down for you so that the moment you come, it just gives you the result. This is made possible using cache memory, and cache memory is another type of memory in the computer. Earlier we talked about the RAM and um, the storage. So we talked about RAM as the volatile memory in the computer where instructions are quickly fed to the CPU from. But there's something called cache memory that's in between um, the RAM and the processor itself. So in order to prevent that, also reduce the time that it takes for a CPU to process data by fetching an instruction from the RAM to the CPU before executing. What the CPU does is that um, it carries that information the first time. After processing it, it keeps it in a memory that's within its range, which is called the cache memory now. Cache is spelled CACHE, right? I hope you did we talk about it? But yeah, if you didn't, then we're talking about it now. So it keeps it there so that you can easily access it next time um, it wants to perform that same data, that same execution, sorry. And the next time it doesn't have to go through all of that processing. So let me say your passwords now to a particular application or website, for example. The first time you input the password, if you have to follow the process, the next time you want to log in, you have to follow the process of you imputing the password, and it does the validations and all of those checks and confirms here that your password is correct, and it logs you in the system. The next time you come, it doesn't, The CPU, in order to save time, would not want to go into that long process of validating each of the characters in your CP, in each of the characters in your password, to be sure that you are the one. So sometimes it wants to save that password in a way that you can access it. Well, this is a security problem, right? So um, what the meltdown especially does as an attack is that all of the data that the CPU does not want to like retain, and it trashes for security reasons, right? An attacker is able to get it from the trash, right, and make use of it in order to harm the PC or to steal data from the processor. So the intention was for security, but the process has been exploited. And Spectre also is very similar. And the only problem is that Spectre is considered to be worse because it can steal application across, it can steal data across different applications and from different applications. So, right, we will be talking about this in another session. I would like to create a separate video dedicated for this in order to explain it better, so we won't do so much on it. But these are examples of how um, vulnerabilities from hardware can affect can affect the system and the information stored in that system. Other categories are um, other kinds of vulnerabilities are software vulnerabilities, and there are different kinds of software vulnerabilities. Software vulnerabilities, as we explained earlier, result from codes, from errors in the codes, from bugs in the program, right? So example of this one includes buffer overflows, non-validated input race conditions, weak security practices. So for buffer overflows, there is, apart from the cache, there are something called buffers um, in your computer, especially in the processing unit. So this can also temporarily store information, so that buffers, yeah, they are temporal containers for information so that they can be easily accessed. And all of these things come together to optimize a computer speed, right? The clock speed of the computer, the process, they they come together to optimize it. And um, when an instruction is sent and the instruction is not ready to be executed, it can be kept in a buffer until when it is ready for execution, then it picks from the buffer. But an attacker can exploit this by overflowing the buffer with malicious instructions, and then it now offsets the original order of execution. That way, when the data in the buffer is overflowing, attackers can access it and use whatever information it is they are looking for using this process. Another software vulnerability is um, when your inputs are not validated. I'll explain what input validation means. So sometimes you try to fill a form online, and then there is a place where you put your name, there's a place you put your surname. Those are form inputs, right? They allow you to input data, to input um, information into the computer for processing. So anytime you type in your name, you are imputing data. Okay. Now, validation of inputs is when the system or the program or the application is making sure that that thing you are putting inside that input field is what is expected of you. Now, if you're supposed to write your name in the name space, in the name field, and then you put phone number, and the system tells you that you have put the wrong data type inside this field, then the system is validating your input. Then it means input validation has been put in check for that. Now, the importance of input validation in cybersecurity is to prevent hackers from writing their own code into the system or into the application, because it is possible that they can use their own code and inject it into the system through those those form fields where you're supposed to input your names or other information. And then when they've successfully inputted their own code, their code can run on top of the code and maybe override the system security or steal data or do something that's harmful to the system or even the users of the system, as the case may be. So yeah, that's what input validation entails, and that's why it's very important. So when the software is written, when the code is written, when an application is built, and the application requires inputs from users, and the input fields are not validated, it can pose a very serious security problem, right? There's another one called race conditions. This race conditions is a kind of like a vulnerability that allows hackers to perform some certain tasks by exploiting the order of execution of of that task, whatever component is of the task. I'm going to use an example. This is a very, very light example. It probably will never happen in real life. But imagine um, you try to make a transfer from your bank to somebody, and after inputting the amount and the password, and you click send, and then after clicking send, the money is sent, but when on your dashboard it has not reflected that that money that you sent has left the account, so your current balance is still showing the recent balance instead of it being updated to a lower sum. So you now say, oh, I had 100,000 and I sent 50,000. I'm still having 100,000. Let me quickly send another 50,000 to that person. And then you now quickly do that, and the 50,000 also sends again, right? Now um you're supposed to have zero naira, but now you have 50 because before the first transaction updated you did another one. Or let's say you have 50,000 and you're not able to send if you have zero or if you have low insufficient balance. So you send 50,000 and before your balance returns to zero, you now quickly send another one again because the the system has not updated your last transaction. So that's a typical example of how to present race conditions. So this exploits system processes. This example is probably never ever going to happen in real life, but think about race conditions as that. So yeah. So when developers build their codes, they have to try as much as they can to validate processes to make sure that these kind of things don't happen. And weak security practice can also result from improper identity management or password management or other ways. For instance, you build a website and the or an application, and you didn't you didn't create strict policies for your passwords. That's to say anybody can just set up any careless password and the password works. That's considered as a weak security practice. So a password is supposed to follow a particular template. A password is supposed to, a good password is supposed to be, let's say, by organization standard, not less than 12 characters, should be alphanumeric. That's to say it must have the combination of numbers and alphabets, should also have upper cases, and should have special characters. So when you enforce this as a must, right, it now takes away the chance of someone using a careless password. And so that's the most everybody who will be on that system are going to have strong passwords because you have forced them to follow the template for password usage. And right. So yeah. So other access controls problem will not be only with passwords. The other access control problems that can be with even physically accessing where important systems are within an organization, or or even if it's your personal data, the kind of control that you allow for the different kinds of people that have access to that data can pose some security problems. And then there's human vulnerability. Like I said, we are going to talk about this when we talk about social engineering. But ultimately it is humans that operate computers and computer systems, right? So um, some things that are common to humans that can be exploited by attackers is fear, their trust, sense of urgency, ignorance. And a light example is how when someone has been threatened, right, that something bad is going to happen if they don't reveal some sensitive information. They most of times they are going to yield. Or when someone trusts that this person is my brother, is not going to steal from me, right? He can he can give the person sensitive information because the person is his brother. But what happens when the person is not really his brother? When the person or when the person has evil intentions despite being the brother, right? So these are vulnerabilities that human beings have. Mhm. And then there's urgency. You will tend to respond um, as an attacker wants if he comes to you with sense of urgency. Hey, if you don't do this now, your account is going to be blocked. I am your account manager and I have been caught and I'm noticing that your account has been blocked without your consent. And if you don't pay so amount of money, or if you don't send me your PIN or your ATM, this, that, your account is going to be locked in the next 2 hours. You don't want your account to be locked in 2 hours. So quickly send your ATM PIN or your card information. And at the center of everything here is ignorance. When you don't know that these are techniques that attackers can use, or you don't even identify that these are vulnerabilities that humans have, right? You can be an easy target. So yeah, those are types of vulnerabilities. Well, we talked about software extensively and software vulnerabilities. So how do you meet them? How do you mitigate them? How um how do you try to solve them? The most important one, any day people talk about when it's about um software vulnerabilities is software updates. That's from the perspective of users. Yeah, from the perspective of users of the system. When we talk about cybersecurity to software developers, we are going to talk to them about to um, how to approach software vulnerability differently. But from the standpoint of a beginner in cybersecurity and that of users and people trying to gain cybersecurity knowledge, the most important one you talk about is software updates. That's because it is vulnerabilities from the software and you're not the one who developed the software, right? So um, what you do is to make sure that your app is up to date, right? So yeah, you come every time to like update your system, update your application. Yeah, oftentimes these developers make these updates and they push it out, but you don't know, right? So unless you follow them up, you make sure that your systems are up to date. So if you're using Windows 10, for example, anytime you get a notification that there are some updates for so part of the computer, so feature, yeah, you go ahead and you do that to make sure that whatever exploits that was discovered, whatever vulnerability, sorry, that was discovered and has been patched, your system is running on the latest patch, and then your system is more secure. So why I'm using that Windows 10 is because Microsoft has something they call Patch Tuesday, on I think Tuesdays of every month. Of every month, yeah, they release updates. So the one for this year has passed, I guess. Yeah, that should be last Tuesday or the other one. But they release timely updates on and patches for their systems. So now we've talked about this and what is an attack? An attack is an attempt to or an action that attempts to compromise the system security or or damage a system or to prevent access to a system. There are different types of attack, but the central goal of an attack is to disrupt the normal flow of work or to be compromise the security of the system. So now, when we try to secure a system, we're not always talking about keeping data safe from harm. Sometimes we talk about um, um, protecting the data from damage and also making it available to users at the time that is needed, right? And sometimes when we talk about this, we also talk about protection of the user's interests. Sometimes even the person's life can be at risk. The person's finance can be at risk when there is an attack. There are different types of attacks. There is the malware attack, there's social engineering, hacking, man in the middle attack, there's SEO poisoning, password attacks, there are cryptojacking, there's advanced persistent threats, denial of service, injection attacks, and ransomware. So we're going to start talking about these ones now, and let's jump right into it. So a malware is a software, a malicious software that is designed to disrupt, damage, or gain authorized access to system. So as the name implies, malware, malicious software, that is software that is built with evil intentions. Ha ha ha. Let's put it that way, that works. Yeah. So um example like the viruses and everything, the if we don't know anything, we've known about viruses, we've heard about viruses, so I'm going to stick to that one, but we're going to see different types of malwares. But yes, a virus is also a code, a software, just like you build other softwares or download other softwares. That's how viruses are. They're also softwares, but they have intentions to disrupt the system or to leak sensitive system information or to damage the system, right? So um, when your system is infected with malware, you rest assured that the malware is doing or is going to do the things that you don't want um, it to do in your PC. So example of malware are, one is spyware. So a spyware is just like a malicious software, which is a malware that can secretly enter your phone and steal information, enter your system, your when I say system, it could be your tablet, it could be your laptop, it could be your mobile phone, it could be any of your device that you use, right? So they secretly monitor your activities inside that device and steal your information, and then most of the times they return that information to the person who built the spyware, right? Maybe the person wants to monitor your activity, like the places you go, by monitoring your navigation system, that's your geolocation, right? You can also monitor the sites you visit, like what kind of things do you do online, what kind of shopping activities interest you most, or what kind of songs you listen to, or what your system password is when you are imputing it. Just think about a spy trying to monitor someone. Yeah. So there are applications, there are softwares that that does these things too. And typically your system, um well, it's not that easy because when it is spyware you typically won't know. But if you're familiar with it, you can begin to suspect when you see any of these signs. Number one, when your browser begins to misbehave, or when you begin to have some pop-ups that are irregular, or when your system begins to slow down. System slowdown is typical of malware though. There are different kinds of malwares that also make your system to slow down. So another one is hardware, and most of us have this without even knowing, right? But yeah, hardwares are softwares. We still categorize them as malicious software because they are what you don't want, and a lot of people find them very annoying. But what they do is they automatically deliver advertisements, unwanted ones to your device. Most of us using smartphones, especially Android users, would agree to this, would have seen this one way or another, and then all of a sudden your system or your phone just begin to pop ads pop ads, things that you didn't even ask for, and they just keep dumping advertisements to you like that. So there's a high chance that you've had an adware. So most times the ones you're experiencing is not exactly an attack, because the application we download in our phone have some affiliation with those advertising companies, and then they pay them to deliver the ads to you. But it's possible for you to get infected with an adware, and at that time your phone begins to experience overwhelming amount of ads even when you're not online, right? Sometimes you're just browsing on your own, and your browser keeps redirecting you to a website where you didn't click the link, you didn't ask for it. And then also your system can slow down when you have um, an adware malware in your PC or in your device, your mobile phone, whatever device you're using. So there's another one called the backdoor. Well, this can be delivered in any way though. It can be delivered through something we call Trojan. It can be delivered through a virus. It can be delivered through different ways. But yes, in itself, it can be a malware that can provide remote access. And remote access means somebody who's not with your phone, somebody who's not with your laptop, somebody who's not with your device, being able to access that same device from a different location without you knowing. That's to say, you're holding your phone and you think you are in full control of your phone, but there's another person that is also holding your phone and is in full control of your phone without you knowing. The person can log in your phone or your system or your website or application, can log in at any time whenever the person likes, and you're not even aware that something like that is happening. So yeah. So how do you know if maybe like there is a backdoor in your system? If your system is one that does login, right? Or if it's an application that sends emails whenever you log in um, on that application, probably send the email to your mailbox, and you get notified that, oh, so person logged in from so place at so time. I mean, you can begin to get suspicious when you know that you are not the one. So it's an obvious indication that someone is logging into your device. But when the system does not have that kind of security process in place, it might be difficult for you. But yeah, whenever there is a logging, there's an activity log that shows the times that you come online and the times you go offline, and it's not tallying with what you did by yourself. You know that something is happening. And then whenever you didn't update your profile picture and you see that your profile picture has been updated, for example, you obviously know that someone is using your account here, right? So yeah. So scareware is when if you're this one is more common with computer users, as much as I know though, not mobile phones. But yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, they are there. I'm so sorry about that. They are there, especially in some websites, unsafe websites you go to browse. A pop-up just come up that your system have 1,000 virus. As a matter of fact, one day I was told that I have 30,000 virus. That I should quickly install antivirus to clean my system. I mean, if I am not aware, if I'm not cyber aware, I would want to protect my phone immediately. And then, oh my God, how did I have 38,000 virus? And then just download the antivirus in quotes without knowing that antivirus I'm downloading is the real virus or the real malware that I'm even installing now. I didn't have any virus. I was very sure of that. And my phone didn't have any virus. I was very sure of that. So it didn't work on me. But imagine an ignorant user who sees that kind of thing. The person might be alarmed, and the person out of fear will now download that application without knowing that the application is a malicious software that can, steal data from his phone, or even damage the phone, whatever the person has designed it for. So yeah. Um, then there's a rootkit, which is a very dangerous kind of malware that can enter your system without knowing, but it compromises your system from the core level, from the deepest levels, right? And while a normal malware can just be at the surface and running on top of an application or somewhere at the top, easy to detect. I mean, you can just use an antivirus to just wipe it off, or maybe like format your PC and it's gone. A malware is a rootkit is affecting your system, is compromising your system from the kernel level. And I've not explained what the kernel is, but just think about the core of the computer. Think about the the core of the operating system, like at the most basic root level of the operating system, beyond the application level, beyond the level where applications operate. So it's an interesting subject of discussion, but it's going to take a while if you want to go deep into it. But if you understand it like this, you're going to be good to go for now. So yeah, when a rootkit enters your PC, it's going to be very difficult for you to get rid of it, because you not even be even antivirus oftentimes will not be able to locate it, because it is below the application level, and antivirus is an application, right? So sometimes even when you format your PC, the the rootkit is still there, right? Sometimes it compromises your system from a firmware level. So in fact, as the system is booting like this, it's already compromised. It's very, very difficult. So, but yeah, how do you know if this kind of things, if your system is infected with a rootkit? An indication could be that your system is misbehaving. You tried to fix it. You've used antivirus. You've searched everywhere, and your system is saying there is no virus in this system. Yet the system is obviously infected, and the system is still misbehaving. You formatted the system, and the system is still misbehaving. Then that could be an indication that you have a rootkit installed in your PC. So, and then the virus everyone talks about is the most popular kind of malware, right? A malware that's able to replicate itself, just like the normal virus, biological virus that you know. The virus can enter your system through infected files that you might probably download or share or collect from your friend's system, maybe like your music or some picture, image files, or other, maybe PDF, right? Yes, they could be gotten from online. Maybe you're downloading stuff for something else, you wouldn't know that that stuff you're downloading is infected with a virus. So typically, the developers of the virus, they remember we said that they are malware, they are malicious software. So yes, they are developed by developers, by malware developers. They call them malware developers. So the person who develops this thing knows what it is. So they attach it to that picture. It could be a picture of a fine girl. It could be a picture. It could be pornography. It could be anything that they know will appeal to the target user, or if it's a general people, if it's general audience they're targeting, they know this. So they attach it to that file, and you download the file. You would see the file, but you don't know that that file has been compromised. You don't know that it's carrying a virus, and then you input it in your system. Maybe you download the file to your system or your device, whatever. And then the moment you execute that file, or open that image, or play that music, or whatever it is, the moment you open it, when you click on it, it fires up the virus, and the virus becomes active, and the virus begins to spread itself. It begins to like um, replication. Think about something that's giving birth to an identical copy of itself. So before you know it, your system now is full of virus, because it begins to spread and spread and spread, right? And then sometimes the virus can begin to affect other files, so that now when you send something to another person, you are now giving that person virus. So think about the HIV and how HIV spreads in real life. You are going to understand the concept of viruses more. So yeah, virus can corrupt files, or they can delete files that you didn't want to delete, or they can crash your system. Can make your system begin to glitch, begin to be unstable, can generally get you frustrated till you get tired. Oh my god, I need to format this PC. And then you lose your files. But well, wait, this is the virus can even help you delete all your files. That's not funny, but yeah, it is. So there's a lot to say about virus. There's a lot to say about all the malware. So I'm going to try and make separate videos for everything we've been discussing so far. So for a deeper knowledge of all of the concept. Something we call Trojan horse. Trojan horse is another kind of malware that will pretend to be legitimate software just to trick you to install, but you don't know that you've infected your PC. I'm going to give you a very beautiful example, something that I know can even happen to me with all my knowledge of cybersecurity. I like beautiful things. I like those system skins, those themes and launchers. Those I don't know if you know them, but when I see a beautiful theme, maybe theme of Spider-Man, I use Spider-Man currently as my wallpaper, and it's very very beautiful. Oh my God, I just want to download it. It's possible that what I'm downloading is not a Spider-Man theme. It's possible that it's a Trojan horse. But the person knows that I love Spider-Man so much. Now the person presents to me a theme that's that's a collage of all the most amazing Spider-Man pictures, and oh my God, I love it. And then I download it and I install it on my PC. And on my system, I'm always seeing those beautiful slides of Spider-Man images, you know, passing and coming, and oh my God, I'm so happy. But while I'm enjoying that beautiful view, I don't know that my system has been compromised. Now, that is a Trojan horse. Now, a Trojan horse can do anything, but it's possible that the person who developed that malware, this Trojan horse now, it's possible the person wants to have remote access to my system. Possibly the person wants to plant a backdoor on my system so that he can always come to my system and log in from wherever he is anytime that he likes without me knowing. So in my mind, I downloaded a Spider-Man theme, but what I actually downloaded is a malware. And because of that thing I installed on my system, a criminal hacker can access my system from anywhere it is. It means he can see all the websites I browse. He can see um, the conversations that I'm having. You can steal my sensitive data. If I have private photos in my system, you can steal them. Private photo will not be my. Hey, when people talk about private photos, they might think that it's when you are nude, when you are naked, and which that is also very possible. But other ones can be confidential files from your office, or depending on your position that you're handling in your office, you might be in custody of sensitive data. The person can have access to it too, right? And then there's the other one, suspicious activity after downloading the software. If after downloading a software that seems like the one you want, you downloaded it, and after downloading the system, software begins to misbehave, and be a sign that you downloaded a Trojan horse that's carrying any other kind of malware. So the catch here is that it's a malware that disguises to be a real software, and you download it only to find out that there's something else that you actually downloaded, right? So then there's worms, and worms is it should be the last. Yeah, worms. Okay, so worms are like viruses. The only thing is that worms don't have to you don't have to like um you know unlike viruses wait for you to activate that particular file. That thing that you downloaded that is corrupted with virus, right? If it's an image, you have to like click on it, open that image before it activates the virus. A worm is more damaging because it can activate itself. In fact, it can come into your system by itself without you even doing anything. You only just be on the network. You connect to that network, and that's all. The virus from another person's system will just work from wherever it is and come um to your own system without you even doing anything. No. So yeah, and then it exhibits the same it can exhibit the symptoms that a virus show typically. It can make your device to slow down, it can make your network slow down, you can use up system bandwidth. All right, so network bandwidth, yeah. So that's a worm. So that's what make worm more dangerous than a virus because it's self-replicating. It can replicate itself, it can propagate itself. Apart from self-replication, it's also self-propagating. It can infect without you even doing anything, without your assistance. It can move on its own, right? So yeah, so another kind of attack, what the attacks we've been talking about, right, has been malware, which is a kind of attack, right? Another kind of attack is social engineering. Social engineering is a very dangerous one, but it is one of the things that we are familiar with. I'm very, very sure if you're Nigerian, you must have received a call or heard of someone who received a call, and on that call, the person on the other end is asking the receiver to send um, maybe like their credit card details, or that the receiver is going to see a one-time password that the receiver to call that code for them on the phone. So typically they disguise themselves as bank operatives, bank officials, maybe like your account manager, and they say your account is locked, and then we are going to send so code to you. When you get the code, send it to me, and then I'll use it to activate your account. Without knowing that that code you are sending is an OTP that's going to allow them to steal all the money from your account. So they do that by manipulating you. They know that if they tell you that they are your account manager, you are going to give them information that's relating to your account. So they pretend to be account managers. Sometimes they can pretend to be your boss in the office and ask you for what is the password for so system, and then your boss cannot ask you for password and you are saying I'm not going to tell you. For those who are not aware, who are ignorant, right, they quickly just give the information to the person who they think is their boss, and the person end up not being their boss, but now the person has the password to that particular system, right? And they are just using a bunch of psychological tricks to manipulate these particular users, to trick people into giving out information that they would not give under normal circumstance, right? Confidential information that they will not give out under, if the attacker had just met them and asked for that information, they would not have released the information, but by manipulating them psychologically, they're able to get that information. And this is very, very, very powerful, because the weakest and the most dangerous security flaw that any system can have is the human vulnerability. That's the human flaw, because the system can be secured all it likes in any way that it likes. But when the person operating the system has been compromised, then the entire system has been compromised. So no matter how you lock your room, no matter how you secure any premise, and you are the one holding the key. If I manipulate you, you can give me that key. And by you giving me that key, I now have access to the room and all the treasures in the room, despite the fact that the room has been heavily secured. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, social engineering works by exploiting human emotions such as trust, fear, and curiosity. And I earlier explained how trust can be exploited. That this person is my brother, this person cannot do this to me. The attacker knows that you trust your brother, so the attacker pretends to be your brother. Or the attacker knows that you trust your friends, so the attacker pretends to be your friend. It is possible that an attacker can spend years becoming your friend just because he wants to get something from you. So, for instance, you're a manager of a bank, and maybe like this guy is from a rival company and he wants to know something that your bank has that makes your bank the biggest bank in the country, so that they are going to have his own bank is going to have competitive advantage over you. But there's no way he can get that information from you because it's a protected information. So this attacker now comes to the bank manager without the bank manager knowing his true intentions. So he begins to make friends with the bank manager, he begins to buy some beers for the bank manager, buys gifts for the bank manager's children, begins to visit the bank manager, and for 1 year, for 2 years, for maybe 5 years, they have been friends. They are very, very wonderful. They become the best of friends, and at that point, they begin to talk about their companies, their both businesses, and then before you know, they begin to talk about the secrets their both banks share, without the bank manager knowing that the other person is an attacker on a mission. The other person might be sharing information too, but the bank manager is innocent, so he's unsuspecting, he doesn't know that he's a target until the specific information that the attacker is needing for has now been released, and then um, the the attacker goes back to his company and say, "I've been able to get this information from this man." Yes, it took 2 years, it took 5 years because the attacker was trying to exploit the bank manager's trust for his friends. Do you understand? So that's how it happens. And the other example is fear. You know, when there is a gun pointed on your head, right? You can release almost any information, but it's possible that that thing pointed on your head is not gun. Maybe it's a toy gun, right? But you don't know. So you begin to speak things because you don't want to die. It can happen in cybersecurity. It's not that they will have to point gun on your head, but when someone calls you that he is the boss and is threatening to fire you because you refuse to release an information that he asked for, you, out of fear of not losing your job, might yield and release that information, and then you release the information to a criminal, right? Some people, out of curiosity, go to places where they should not go to online, and then they they drop some sensitive information there, right? And social media is another big problem. It's not part of this slide. I don't know how I missed that, but I'm going to talk about it, right? You see, you go online and you post your husband's picture and your husband's name. You post your daughter's picture and your daughter's name. You post your picture and your name. You post your house address. You post the school your children go to. You post the school you graduated from. You post the hospital you go for antenatal. You post your husband's job. You post your husband's position as maybe like as an architect or as whatever. You post, and then you just keep posting everything. What you're doing is that you are putting all of your information online, and you are giving them free of charge to hacker. So when somebody wants to hack you, when somebody wants to rob you, when someone wants to steal from your account, when someone wants to do anything against you, it's easy because the information that are supposed to be private to you, you have already released them. Now, if a person knows your husband from social media and the work your husband does on social media and where people live on social media and all of the information that it's only you and your husband are supposed to know, when the person knows this, the person can simply call you on phone and change his voice to your husband's voice and ask you for something that the moment the person says, "Hey, I'm still at the so branch at so place, so and I'm not going to be coming home today. That's 4 o'clock. You know, we normally close on Fridays by 4 o'clock, but I won't come home today. That's 4 o'clock because we have a meeting with our directors. But um, I want you to give me the password to that our other account I've been trying to reach. I don't know if I forgot, but it's not opening. And then because you believe it's your husband and he has talked about the place you work and he has talked about why he's not coming home in the normal 4 o'clock Friday closing hours. And before you know it, you think it's your husband and you have given out that information. The person got the information by just being on social media, and then you give the person that information free of charge. They should tie your hand and your leg and flog you very, very well. So yeah, that's that's social engineering, and that's how dangerous it can be. So we are going to talk about social engineering and social engineering techniques. There's one I didn't put here. That one they call it phishing. That's one of the most popular social engineering techniques. Uh, it's not here, but it's something that we are still going to discuss about because it's very important. And I'm going to find another time to create a separate video for that. But it's one of the social engineering techniques. And phishing is spelled phishing. So phishing is when people use email or SMS or fake calls to try to pretend to be somebody they are not in order to get information from you. So imagine you are a receptionist and you get an email, and then the email is saying, send so thing to so person at place like that. But all the email is saying that click this particular link in order for you to download so thing, or click this particular link to access a self-help portal for this for whatever reason, and then you are clicking the link only that the link you are clicking is not the exact link. It's not a real link, it's a fake link. It's a link to a criminal website where your information can be stolen. You can even get a link to log into your social media or to log into Facebook to check people that are viewing the last picture you posted. Whereas nobody is actually viewing, or maybe they are viewing, but then that link is not from Facebook, it's from a criminal hacker. And then you click the link and they're asking you to log in. So you put your username and your password, only that it fails and it doesn't work because it's not the real Facebook. But now the hacker has your username and your password. That's one technique that a lot of people are using to hack people's Facebook, and they think, oh my god, did my Facebook have been hacked? How did it happen? You don't know that you probably clicked a link somewhere and then you just dash them your username and your password. Another one is pretexting. Yeah, pretexting is um, when I'm pretending to, I'm literally pretending to be somebody. I can call you and say I am the head of IT in in our company, and your system has been locked out, but you're not in the office, and we need to do something in that particular system right now. And then you now send your password to the system, whereas the person is not IT, or the person pretends um, to be maybe like to be your boss, or pretends to be somebody that you know and you trust, and the person tries to behave like the way that person is going to behave typically, and based on the trust that you have, and if people have that conversation, the person collects the information that he's after. There's another one called tailgating. Tailgating is when, let me say, you're trying to access a restricted area. Only you have access, or only people that have maybe like an maybe like a key pass. I hope you've seen some of those electronic doors that use cards to open, right? Or that use fingerprints to open. Now, only people whose fingerprints have been registered are going to have access to that room. Only people who have that key card that should access that room, right? But imagine you've inputted your fingerprint, the door has opened, and somebody quickly said, oh, excuse me, let me go in with you. And then the person just enters without the person inputting his or her own fingerprint. That person is is doing what they call tailgating. It's leveraging on your own access to get access to a restricted area, even when the person doesn't have the credentials. So one of the things that make that into work is that early morning rush hours in some organizations, maybe like office opens by 8 o'clock, and anything beyond 8 o'clock they are considered late. And then by 7:59 you are entering, which means technically you're not late. But after you, the person might now be late. And you understand that that person might be your colleague also trying to enter, and the person wants to beat time. So when the person asks you to hold the door for me, you will most likely want to hold the door because the person is already sharply dressed, right? The person has to be an employee. If not, why is the person rushing to enter this building at this particular time? If not that the person is trying not to be late. And then you unknowingly allow the person in, not knowing that you've allowed a criminal inside. Do you understand? So there are other technical ways people do these things, but this is an example of what or how the gating can come to play. Yeah, then there is quid pro quo when you offer something of value in exchange for confidential actions. This is very straightforward, right? I can just give you a very wonderful offer that if you give me this information that I need, and I'm going to give you 10 million naira. And wow, you've never seen 10 million naira in your life. Wow. And what is this information? Is it just not just, I might just take it and then wow. So it's a win-win for both of us seemingly, but you don't know the level of damage that you may be causing your organization or yourself by just doing that. So there are a lot of other social engineering techniques. There is whaling, I talk about vision and phishing, smishing, right? There is watering hole attacks. There are different kinds of social engineering techniques. You are going to do those things along the line, and because you are going to be learning how to do some of the technical ones, I'll be teaching you how to do that. So I'm not going to bother that some of them are not listed here right now. So there's so much to talk about. So you cannot just always get all of them down. If you want to write everything down, I don't know when we're going to finish, and I don't know how long this slide will be. So another kind of attack is denial of service attack. So when we were talking about cybersecurity from the previous class, we talked about protection of data, and then we talked about the cybersecurity framework, that's like confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So a denial of service attack is an attack on a system, on application's availability, right? So this service is supposed to be accessible to this particular person or group of persons at this particular time, but the attacker has made it inaccessible to them at that particular time. What just happened is denial of service. This can happen when the system is overloaded, right, with requests that the system cannot handle them anymore. For example, a lot of people are trying to log in um, a website at the same time. When the number of requests is too much, people cannot enter, right? So imagine a room where there is a door and one person can enter at a time, one person can enter at a time. So what happens when 100 people try to enter through that door at the same time? They will not, nobody will be able to enter unless they begin to enter one at a time again. So what denial of service is that the system is able to take so number of access requests, or the system is able to process um, some actions or whatever it is the people are trying to do on the system. The thing is the system only have capacity of doing maybe like 10 at a go, or 100 at a go, or 1,000 at the same time. But now you are loading the system with 10,000. Before the system finishes one, another request is already there and it's dragging the system to attend to it also. And then there are thousands or hundreds of thousands of requests at the same time. The thing overloads the system, and the system is now unable to even answer anybody, and ultimately the system crashes. So that's an attack on the availability of that service the system provides. So it's also a cybersecurity concern. Then the DDoS is distributed denial of services, and this involves the use of different computers that have been coordinated to attack one single computer. So how can this happen? The the attacker can compromise different computers around the world and infect them with its own virus. When the computer, when the attacker has infected all this number of computers, they now become like zombies. That is to say, he can control these computers at will. So if he's ready to attack you, he will now deploy all of those computers and make all of those computers to send you message at the same time. So I'm going to create a scenario. So uh, let me use this guy. Let me use say you. Your name is Israel, and your name is John. Or let me use what? Yes, your name is John. Let's use John or Samuel. I like Samuel. Your name is Samuel. Uh-huh. And you are a bad problem with you, or you angered me or one way or another. So I'm looking for a way to get back at you, right? How do I get back at you that it will affect you? Maybe if I destroy your system, or maybe I just want to annoy you. Just I don't know. It could be anything that I want to do. But the way I can get back to you is through your computer. So I say, okay, in order for me to get back to you, I would affect your system in such a way that you're not going to use it. So in order for me to do that, and I'll go back and maybe design um, a beautiful image or picture or something, whatever, and put it online in a place where there are a lot of people. So people from all around the world go to that website, they see that image or that beautiful thing I've created, they downloaded it, and then they don't know that I've attached a malware to that file. Now, on downloading that malware, their system become compromised. So now I've had access to their system, and now I have access to the computers of millions of people all around the world. All those computers that I've had access to now that I've compromised, they now become my zombie league. They now become my soldiers. They call them botnets. You understand? So I can now control those computers from anywhere I am. Where I am controlling those systems is called a command and control center. So from my command and control center, I can issue command to all of those computers which are now my zombies, which are now my soldiers. I can now tell them, hey, all of you people, I want you to send requests to Samuel's computer right now. So all of those computers from all across the world begins to send Samuel a connection request or whatever request that I want them to do to send to Samuel. Now, there's no way Samuel's computer can attend to all of these requests from all across the world at the same time. So Samuel's computer ultimately crashes. It's an analogy. This is just an over, how do I put it now? A high level example, a high level illustration of what distributed denial of service is. So um, when this happens, you see that it's a coordinated attack from very different computers across the world against one specific target. So when they say me against the world, this is just what it means, and the world will beat the hell out of you, right? That was on a lighter note. Okay, so we move forward. So yeah, other kinds of attacks are man in the middle attacks, social engineering optimization, cryptojacking. I think we are going to stop here, right? Yeah, we're going to stop here. Oh my god, this is over 1 hour. What is this thing to be within 1 hour? Man in the middle attacks. So man in the middle attack is an attack against integrity. We talked about confidentiality, integrity, and availability in the CIA triad. That's the cybersecurity framework. All right. So MITM, man in the middle attack, is attack against integrity in the sense that the message being sent is not the same message being uh, delivered because somebody has intercepted it in between. Although there are some times where the person would not change the information, but um, the person can steal the information or steal the communication, right? Just by being in the middle. So that also makes it possible for it to be called an attack against confidentiality, but it's an attack against integrity. So if I send a message, there is this classical there's this classic Alice and Bob example they use in cybersecurity. So Alice sends a message to Bob, but before Alice's message gets to Bob, the hacker intercepts it in the middle. The hacker decides to change the message, and instead of the hello that Alice sends to Bob, Bob receives uh, maybe like a rude and insultive word. I don't want to use any curse words now. I don't know where this video got. But yeah, that Bob receives a curse word instead of the hello that Alice sent, right? So that can become a problem. So it's not just changing it from a greeting to a curse word. It can be anything, right? The person can decide to steal, or the person can just be secretly listening to the private communication that's going between Alice and Bob. It could just be anything. But that message is supposed to be private. Nobody's supposed to know. But yeah, he's aware. So that's a man in the middle attack. There are so many ways to make man in the middle attack works. But to go deeper in cybersecurity, they begin to unravel, begin to discuss them and the various methods that can be done. But now we are talking about attack techniques that hackers use. So search engine optimization, you must have heard of SEO, especially those digital marketing experts that like talking about digital marketing and search engine optimization, all of that, all of that. But yeah, search engine optimization is what makes um, desirable results to pop out to the user when they are searching for something, especially when somebody is browsing on, let's say, Google, right? Somebody is browsing on Google, yes. Search engine optimization optimizes the search engine to provide the most favorable results to the user. So an attacker can manipulate the search results to make um, their own intended results to be displayed to the user. So when the user is searching for something, maybe the user is searching for where to buy Hollandia yogurt. I'm looking at a bottle of the what do they call it? I'm just looking at my Hollandia yogurt now, and so I'm using it as an example. So the person is searching for where to buy Hollandia yogurt, and then um the attacker now in the responses that the person is getting, the attacker now sends a response that is a wrong response, that is a malicious response, and that response gets top priority. So people tend to click the answers that is at the top more than the ones at the bottom. So when that response comes at the top, the victim thinks that is the most reasonable answer, and then clicks the link without knowing that the link is not taking it to an original site. It's going to take it to a malicious site where his information can be stolen, or where his device can be infected with malware or any of those kind of things. Then there is password attacks. When someone wants to hack your password or steal your password, there are different methods that can be used. Password spraying is when the person like decides to try some generalist of easy or commonly used passwords on different usernames and hope that one of them is going to be the password for that particular account. For example, people like to use if the guy's name is John, you might want to use John 123. So when I know John's username, all I need to do is to try different possible easy passwords that can work, right? But when there are plenty people, like plenty possible accounts and usernames, and I already have them, then I can begin to try commonly used passwords on all of those different accounts till one is going to match one, and then I open it. That's password spraying. But dictionary attacks is when there is a list of commonly used passwords, and then you are trying it against one account, right? Mhm. So until a match is found. Then there's brute force attacks. Brute force attacks tries to force like force the different possible combinations of characters that you have used for your password until a match is found. And then rainbow tables like the dictionary attacks, but it makes use of password hashes that corresponds with passwords. And then when the match is found, you know that okay, that hash belongs to that particular password. So it can now be used. So we are going to get to sessions where we talk about these attacks specifically and in details. So cryptojacking is another kind of attack, like it's a technique that people use by hijacking your computer or your phone and making use of your phone to mine cryptocurrencies, right? So you might be holding your phone and you don't know that your phone has been infected. And then while your phone is idle and it looks like it's not doing anything, the the malware inside that your phone that compromises the phone is using your phone CPU to mine Bitcoin or to mine any other cryptocurrency without you knowing. It means your phone has been hijacked without your consent. Sure, you understand. Then there's advanced persistent threats. These are APTs. So this is a hacker group that consists of high level professionals that that can sit down for a long period of time trying to crack a system, trying to crack or compromise the security of maybe like a very big organization, say Stanbic IBTC Bank or Zenith Bank or UBA, those very big banks that probably have robust security, but they take their time. Or sometimes they are even bigger than just organizations. They can be as big as targeting nations, and maybe even like say what's the big example I can use? In Nigeria now, I can say CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, for example. It's definitely not going to be an easy target for you, but these guys can sit down and for a long period of time, they are trying to crack the security in CBN. That's on level one. There's another level where it's they're already in the system, they've cracked the system, but what they are doing, they are stealing data bit by bit over time. So this thing can take a lot of time, and under normal circumstance, a normal hacker would have given up and be like, oh my god, I don't have time for this. But these guys will sit down, they begin to collect tiny bits of data, tiny bits of data. By the time they aggregate that data, it now makes a lot of sense. Or after sitting down and trying over and over and over and over, one day they break through and they break the system security. So it's just as the name implies, they are threats, but they are advanced and then they are persistent. They don't back down, they stay on it for a long period of time until what they want is achieved. They could steal the data. Um, yeah. So Some of these people are nation sponsored, like a country can have their own hacker group that's targeting another country and performing some of these malicious activities against the other country for a long period of time without them knowing. They can be performing espionage on another country without their knowing. And then I don't want to mention the name of any country now, so I don't. It's me treading carefully, right? Boy, you understand what I'm saying? Okay, yeah. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's session. This recording is already too long. I'm sorry about that, but there's always a lot to talk about. And we learned that malware, there are different kinds of malwares, and they are in different forms. And then they are and the different ways they behave. We learn about viruses. We learn about worms. We learned about spywares. We learned about adwares and the other things. We learned about social engineering and how dangerous it is and how it exploits human weaknesses to bypass technical defenses. Then we learned about um, we learned about the techniques that attackers use generally. As a matter of fact, that's what we've been learning throughout the course, and knowing these things now will help you identify these threats when you see them, right? So this brings us to the end of today's session. We're going to continue in the next section heavily. So make sure you've understood everything that we discussed here today. Anyone you don't understand, feel free to ask questions. I'm going to be more than ready to answer. But you can also read a lot of materials on this subject to get deeper, better understanding of them. And then anytime you come across anything anywhere online that you don't understand, you can always bring them to me. I'm going to explain them. Try to explain them in more simpler terms. So with this said, we've come to the end of today's session. So thank you so much for staying up to this point. God bless you. See you in the next one.